The holiday season is right around the corner, and we got something special for you. This month, when you purchase your exclusive Berkeley blanket, you'll be supporting us students as well.
It's the perfect way to stay cozy this winter and show your Berkeley pride while also supporting the next generation of students.
Visit crowdfunding.berkeley.edu and select our Cozy Up for a Cause campaign to make your gift and claim your blanket. But hurry! Quantities are limited and the campaign closes on December 1st.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Berkeley Alumni's Pass the Mic, where we pass the mic to you. I'm Jaquel Illy.
And I'm Patrick Pharma.
We're back with another episode. I'm super excited to be here. How are you doing?
Fighting a little bit of a cold. I am not contagious. Jaquel and I are in the same room today on the Berkeley campus. Our first 2 episodes of the season have spanned 3 states. I think that's cool.
Very cool. And just to touch up on the sickness thing, I had the flu a couple of weeks ago. And let me just say that flu almost took me out. If you're listening to this, be precautious out there.
Wash
be safe.
your hands.
Yes, please. That is something you do not want to play about, for sure.
Yeah. No, I got this from my daughter. So I got like the old school, elementary school cold. I'm over it now, but my voice is still recovering. You know who's not sick this week, Jaquel?
Who?
Deni and Luis. You know Deni and Luis, right?
Of course.
Deni and Luis are the ones that do our advertisements for giving. We did our new season 2 advertisements that we're going to put in throughout the season. And I sat down with them and gave them a little interview. If you remember last year, I asked them some rapid questions. If you had to plan a dinner party, what 3 guests would you choose?
Ricardo, Leslie, and Andres.
And one more.
My mom. Oh, shoot.
Oh, favorite song? Wrong. Favorite movie?
How to Train Your Dragon?
Excellent. So this year I wanted to ask them a little more about themselves so that the audience could hear what our students are kind of going through right now. And they wanted to do some rapid questions with me. So let's go to the tape. Why don't you just tell us about yourselves? So, Luis, what are you studying and where are you at in your career?
Well, I'm studying music composition at Boston Conservatory. I'm in my 5th semester.
What are your hopes for after graduation?
I hope I have a good scholarship for a master's degree or start a job, either composing or teaching music theory. I don't know, something like that.
Pretty good. What about you, Deni?
Well, I'm graduating this year. I'm actually a 7th semester music business and management student, and I have a minor in the business of live music. And I get to leave Berkeley in another semester, which is
frightening.
A little bit. You know what? I'm going to be excited not to be studying all the time and just to focus on my music full time for a little bit. It's going to be nice. But yeah, I'm moving to the United Kingdom and I'm going to be closer to family. I'm just going to focus on music full time and it's going to be great.
And you're both international students, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Luis, where are you from?
I'm from Mexico, Guadalajara.
Okay. And Deni?
I'm from Sofia, Bulgaria.
Oh, okay. Very cool. What has been your favorite moment of recording these podcast commercials with me?
I think my favorite moment probably it's like the rapid 5 questions precisely. I think that's super fun. Plus like the crazy bloopers that sometimes we have. I love that
gotta
stuff.
love the bloopers.
I love the bloopers, yeah.
Gotta love it.
Okay, so last year I did rapid questions with you, and I told you this year that you could ask me the rapid questions.
Yeah.
Luis, I feel like you've planned these out. Do you want to go first?
I remember some, yeah.
All right, hold on. Jonah, play the rapid questions thing. Okay, go.
If you had to ride an animal to get to work, which animal would it be?
Oxen.
What is your favorite train station in Boston?
Broadway Station.
If you had just one shoe to walk the streets, what would you wear?
Just the shoe itself?
Just one shoe, yeah.
I would wear one of my riding boots.
And what would you wear in the other one?
I would wear my red Nikes.
If you could only eat one type of pasta for the rest of your life, what would you eat?
Fusilli.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Okay, that's all I have.
All
I have right now.
I got a little taste of my own medicine. The train station one was tough.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be really bad. My brain just doesn't work fast enough for all this.
Yeah, it's hard to come up.
All right, Deni. Hold on, Jonah. Okay, now you can go.
What's your favorite pizza topping?
Chicken.
Ducks or geese?
Ducks.
Rabbits or foxes?
Rabbits.
If you had to fly, what kind of bird would you be?
I would be an egret.
If you could swim in either milk or soda, which would you swim in?
Soda.
Pudding or cake?
Pudding.
Okay, if you could visit one place on Earth, where would you go right now?
The pyramids in Egypt.
Cars or bikes?
Cars.
Do you believe aliens exist?
Yeah.
What other planet would you live on if not Earth?
Risa. It's a Star Trek reference, guys.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's okay. That's okay. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Oh my God.
Lord of the Rings or Hobbit?
Hobbit.
That's all I got.
It's hard to think that quickly.
I'm a little older, so I've had a little more time to think about these things.
A little?
Let's see.
A little.
Oh, wow.
A little like twice as long, but anyways.
Wow.
Well, thank you both. It is always a pleasure to work with you, and I'm glad that the folks listening were able to finally get to know you a little better. Those are my buddies.
Yes. First of all, I'm super sad that Deni is leaving. It's always so sad when students leave and graduate. It's like a bittersweet moment. It's like, I'm super proud of you, but dang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the cool things for us, though, working in digital engagement and social media, is that once they graduate, we do get to watch them continue their careers on social media, and they make sure to follow us on Instagram.
They are engaged for sure. And they
Yeah.
know if they ever need anything, they know where to come.
Yes.
Well, today we have an amazing show, an extraordinary show, I would say. And why do you think I say that, boss?
Well, I think you're saying that because we've interviewed two people
Yes.
this time, and one is from the conservatory and one is from the college.
Yes, this is the first ever mashup episode. And as Patrick always likes to say, we like to, interview and do our little segments when we are in different spaces. And that was the case for this episode as well.
Jaquel and I were in Boston. Jan was in New York, and Mariya was in Washington.
Yes.
Yes.
The state. of
Again, with
Washington.
3 states.
Whew, I don't
What
know.
is it
Something
today?
about that. I don't know. We're just globe
Yes.
charters. But yeah, so we was able to reach out to both Mariya and Jan for an amazing episode that we are excited for you to hear. What was super cool about them too is that they both work in correctional facilities. And that's something that is going to be super interesting to hear about.
Yeah, Mariya actually won a Boston Conservatory alumni grant for her work performing in prisons throughout Washington State. So we had booked her for a podcast interview. And in the meantime, one of our colleagues put us in touch with Jan, who runs music programs in prisons in New York. And you'll hear him talk about some of his experiences at Sing Sing Prison.
Just talking about prisons in general is something out of the ordinary. It's so like different and weird. It's like usually when we, just to think about prisons, it never has a really positive like connotation behind it. And so having this discussion about how our alums bring a positivity into not so amazing atmospheres was kind of interesting, hard, like a challenge, but also very cool.
We talk a little bit about preconceived notions, and I know that kind of probably audience in your mind's eye, you probably have an image of what this might look like to go into these prisons and do that. And maybe it might be cool to think about it right now and then hear how they explain it later. I think when we're talking about music in the industry, we feel a little more in our element. When we're talking about the prisons and jails and correctional facilities, we don't know the vernacular. So you can kind of hear us kind of being a little timid in terms of like, and when you go into these facilities or
like, am I even saying this right? Is this the right question? Yeah, it was definitely interesting, but they were really knowledgeable of what they do, and it was really cool just to hear about how much they cared about the people that they help out.
They have run the gamut in terms of the different types of people. It sounds like there were a lot of people there were some people that they worked with that had been there for a long time. And then there's some other people that they were able to kind of see them get out of that environment and use the lessons they learned from music programming in the real world. And it's also 2 different types of people. You have a performer going in there to expose people to live performances and help them get away from where they are for a minute. And then you have someone, doing more enrichment programming and having them create the music. So
great episode, and we are excited for you to hear. So enjoy. We could start with you, Mariya. Can you just start with your individual story? Like, where are you from? And why Berkeley? How did you get to Berkeley?
So I'm originally from Washington State, and I came to study with Richter Noren at the Boston Conservatory. I met him at a music festival, and that's basically how I ended up in Boston.
Very cool. And how was your time in Boston? Like, how would you describe it? Was it different? Was it cool?
It was definitely great. So I came in to major in viola performance, and I got so many wonderful opportunities, not only as a violist, but as a musician in general, at both Berkeley and the conservatory, in a classical and a non-classical way. I did a lot of recordings. I did folk music. I did the classical program as well. I basically came out of it as a very well-rounded musician.
Could I just ask a question? How do you wind up with the viola? What's that journey?
Well, I was originally a violinist for many years, and then in undergrad, I kind of realized violin is very competitive. There's a lot of good violinists. I was not one of them. But I've always liked the sound of the viola more. I love the sweet, mellow, warm sound, and I just kind of like the repertoire more. I liked playing it more. I got tired of playing all the high notes on the violin, and I just decided that viola was a better fit for me musically and personality-wise.
It's really cool. How about you, Jan?
I'm originally from Colombia in South America, and I moved to the States when I was 11. So I played guitar when I was a kid because my grandma incentivized me to learn an instrument, but I hated every second of playing guitar. It was just pain and suffering. I didn't really... I don't know. I was learning a lot of like just pop music from the radio, and that was what my guitar teacher was giving me at the time, but it was just not fun. I don't know. It was like, all right, whatever. It's just a chore. But then I moved to the States. I saw Green Day when I was like 11 or 12, and I was like, that's really cool. I need to do that immediately. So then I picked up guitar again and kind of went through that. Went to a music program in high school where the director was kind of like the dude from Whiplash. Like, he was really intense. But like day one of music class, he's talking about like altered scales, and I'm just like, what are you talking about? And then he hooked me up with a teacher who was a Berkeley alum from like the 80s, and so he, I took lessons with him for a few years, and he was like, you should apply. So I did. Somehow I got in, and now I'm here. Yeah. But Berkeley was great. I did music business and jazz composition. When I was there, I was, I think, the only person that did that, at least in my year. So really funny overlap in the graduation row. But yeah, it was cool. I mean, I do like admin work now, mostly for my job other than the teaching thing. And then, still doing creative pursuit, writing, performing stuff.
It's cool. This is our first college conservatory mix-up. I'm loving it already.
It is.
Oh, nice.
It's kind of cool to hear already just the two different experiences. Can you explain what you currently do, like your projects and like your jobs within the correctional facilities? So
I work for two organizations, mostly for Musicambia. There's a nonprofit based in Brooklyn. It was founded by the violist Nathan Schramm from the Ataka Quartet. They're like Grammy nominated, Grammy whatever winning, incredible quartet. And I used to do admin work for Nate's wife, Becca Stevens, who's a ridiculously incredible songwriter. So I met Nate through her. And when I moved to New York, he was like, oh, we need a guitar teacher. Like, are you interested in this work? And I just said yes, because I had no idea what I was doing. And we go to Sing Sing Correctional Facility up in Austin, New York. And so I've been going in since 2018. And there's about a group of 30 men that we've had. There's some people that have been there the whole time I've been there. There's some people that have been transferred or released since, and then newer people. So it's been really cool to be a part of that community for the past 5 or 6 years. We just started a program at the Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, which is a women's prison up in Bedford Hills, New York, which is like an hour north. And we've been there for about 2 years. We started with a program, my coworker Patricia and I, doing like a five week that became a 10-week songwriting workshop And now we're there every Wednesday with a rotating cast of TAs. And then sometimes we go to Lansing Correctional Facility in Kansas City and do a week of songwriting plus a concert there. So I was there in December last year, and then we're going back in May for another workshop. And then with Carnegie, I sub for their guitar teacher. So I go every once in a while, and it's the same people at Sing Sing, same population, just a different program, different concerts, different kind of just structure, but the same community of people.
Yeah. How long have you worked in this program?
With Music Cambia for 5 years, 2018. So yeah, 5 or 6 years. And then with Carnegie, on and off from like since like a little pre-pandemic and then post-pandemic. I've been going in like a little bit more regularly.
And are these folks who self-select into the programs that you run?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I know, Bedford Hills is through a program called RTA, which is Rehabilitation Through Arts. They're kind of everywhere here. They do a lot of theater and art and visual and whatever. And so we're doing like a collab with them to do the music class. And I think people can just sign up if they're able to sign up for RTA, they can take the music class. And then we have 15 people. So if there's a slot open, like every semester, people will leave and people will come in. So we always have new faces. And then at Sing Sing, there's just a long wait list. And whenever somebody decides to opt out or leave or, for whatever reason can't participate in the program, then that opens up. But we have 30 spots at the Sing Sing program.
How about you, Mariya? Can you explain your experience and what your program is or what you do in the correctional facilities?
Sure. So my program is I put on classical music performances in different correctional facilities in Washington State. So basically, I operate within the whole state. I've gone to different parts of it. So it's whatever facility is open to have me come based on scheduling and COVID restrictions, of course. So I basically come in and I do a recital that's about an hour long for whatever unit they put me on. And I do that a couple times a year. And I also get to interact with the inmates, like kind of afterwards and kind of have a Q&A. And then that's it. I do that a couple times a year.
I'm sure the listeners want to know, like, what made you end up in this type of industry, in this field? Like, why do you choose to share your musical talents with those inside of the correctional facilities?
So I'll speak from my experience. One is I just love performing. So it's a little bit self-serving. I just love to play. The other reason is as a classical musician, I kind of felt like I want to do more with music. I want to reach out, and people always talk about how music is this wonderful, powerful thing. And in some aspects, I started to lose that with the classical concerts that I did, especially with orchestras. So I started branching out more into kind of maybe not playing in concert halls. So I'm originally from Ukraine. So I've played a lot of Ukrainian folk music in non-classical settings and bars. And then I did a solo recital tour throughout rural Washington where I played classical music, but it was more in a casual setting where I get to talk to the audience and interact with them and really feel that they want to hear the music. Like I feel like I'm making someone's day better. So I decided to branch out and then think about other populations that maybe don't get a lot of access to that. And I came up with prisons. And then I just, that was how I got started.
So you just like reached out to a certain facility and was like, hey, like I'm interested in doing this. Like, is there any availability to fit me in the schedule? Is that how it kind of like came about?
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what I did. I went to the Department of Corrections website for Washington State and I emailed all of the wardens. And the first facility that let me in was a kind of a minimum security women's facility. And then from there, I started to kind of add to my resume. Like I've been to this facility, and then I started to be allowed into more like the more serious facilities as well. But it's been wonderful because I feel like I enjoy playing, but I also feel like this is an audience that is hungry for music. They want to hear it. And I feel like I made their day just a little bit better.
And where you are, it's pretty spread out. So you have a long journey to and from these facilities, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot of jails, but in terms of prisons, most of them are in Eastern Washington, which is quite far from me. We have a few that there's one within a 40-minute drive and one within like a 2-hour drive, which is already better than other ones. But the last 2 concerts I did was at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla, which is about a 4-hour drive for me.
That's dedication.
Wow. How about you, Jan? Why correctional facilities? I
got the opportunity to start working with Musicambia basically through the partner of the person I was working for. And when he told me about the program and what they were up to, I was really curious. I love teaching, and I was curious what that would feel like. And, you know, like the day before my first session, I remember I had this like, you know, movie, like terrifying nightmare of like how, you know, it's just, you know, like you never know, like if you've never been to a prison before, like you just have no idea. Maybe like only the media that you've consumed informs what that might look like. And it was honestly one of the best days ever when we were there the first day. Everybody was so generous and so curious and so open and so like enthusiastic about, one, having a guitar teacher there, but two, about like improvising. And they just had so many questions and so much energy. It just like, you know, we go in there, we don't have any phones, we don't have any sort of electronic devices. We lose track of time immediately because like there's just the clock on the wall. And so what felt like 5 minutes was about 2 or 3 hours. And it was just like so energizing. I had never met a group of people. I think, like people being hungry for art, but also seeing the level of musicians that were at the Sing Sing program, because it had already been going on for about 10 years before I joined. So, you know, people were doing string quartets, people were doing, you know, like one of my guitar students is this guy named Yoshi. He's from China. He's 37 or 8. He's amazing. And he's probably one of the best guitar players I've ever listened to ever. And like day one of teaching him, he just played a solo guitar piece, and it was like Martin Taylor, just like incredible, mind-blowingly proficient at the instrument. And I was just like, dude, who are you? You know, so like just like seeing that like level of musician and interacting with them and seeing how much they grow, and like not being there for a few years, like seeing the growth that everybody has had since they started. So it's that, and also just like the more I go, the more I realize the value of music as a community building thing. Like as a like creative person trying to promote my own art and whatever, like it's easy to get lost in the like, I have to be the best, I have to be, you know, the best guitar player, I have to, in jazz, like you have to hold yourself up to these crazy standards. But then seeing like the actual real value that people are getting is the communal aspect of the music. It's not necessarily like who's the best at whatever. It's like we're all in the space together. We all get to create together. We all get to help each other grow and help each other develop as musicians. And that's the actual important part, not the skill ceiling or whatever, because that's arbitrary. So yeah, that's kind of been what keeps making me want to go more and more ever since I started. And yeah, it's been a big part of my life since I started doing it a few years ago.
If you guys could think back to when you first began, I've taken a lot of trainings, so I know, you know, we all come with our preconceived notions of what we're about to step into and certain things. What were some of your expectations, and what was the reality that you experienced?
Yeah, kind of like Jan was saying, like the night before, like the first time I went in, you kind of don't know what to expect. I feel embarrassed to say this. My only kind of like perception of what a prison was, especially a women's prison, was like I'd watched Orange is the New Black. And but the first time I went in, it was a women's prison, and I had another musician with me. So that kind of, we calmed each other's nerves. And once we were in, it kind of like we forgot that it was like a prison, because it was just such a positive experience. And all the ladies they had such a great time, and they asked questions, and they, you know, talked about their lives. And it was just a wonderful interaction. And the word prison was not even mentioned. It's like we all forgot where we were for a second. So it was kind of a healing experience for them and a positive experience for us too.
Yeah, for me, I had this image of like having to walk through a cell block, maybe from a movie, like people like reaching out to you and like, you know, just calling you and like whatever.
Like
and I was
Beyond
like,
Scared Straight. You ever seen those shows?
Yeah, exactly. Like just some, probably from some movie somewhere. And it was actually, you know, it is really interesting because it's really sheltered. And the guys in the program like let us know specifically how sheltered it is, that we only get to see the sunshine and rainbows, quote unquote, of what's going on. Like they really don't often let us in to some of the horrifying experiences that they encounter on a day-to-day, especially like at Sing Sing is like a maximum security prison. So, you see, just from what I've picked up here and there, like there are some really intense things that happen. But they do a really, they're very conscious of not bringing that energy too much into the things. For example, 2 weeks ago, end of February, we had a concert, just like a scheduled concert for the semester. And the night before, there was a random raid of like the COs came and like woke everybody up at like 2 a.m. and then went through all their belongings, like strip naked. They go through your room, turn it upside down, and then you have to just deal with that. And also you're tired. So, that was the night before the concert, and the guys woke up really early. Like they set up the entire like sound check, set up everything we do our performances in the chapel. And like when we got there, the chapel was ready to be played in. Like all the mics were working, all the amps were plugged in, all the drums were set up. So, they got no sleep, woke up super early, set everything up. And I only heard about this from 2 of the 30 people that were there about what happened the previous night. So, like they really do make a point to not bring that energy from some of the things that they have to deal with into the class. And, and it is interesting that they're just like, yeah, we're not going to tell you all the really intense things that we see because we're here to do music. And like, we don't want to take away from that. But yeah, so it is, like the path to get to the school in Sing Sing is like, you go through the front, they send you through the back. There's just like an open patio. You get on a bus and you get to the school. Like you don't walk through any facilities. Like you don't really do anything. You just kind of like take a very like horse blinders path through the, you see the building, but you don't really go through the building. So yeah, very sheltered for sure.
Yeah, I think it's cool to hear how both of your experiences, you both are saying like how music is a way to build a community within the correctional facilities. I was wondering like, how does it benefit the inmates? It's kind of like an escape, right? Like they don't have to deal with the horrific things that they may be dealing with behind the scenes. But have you both ever been like approached by the inmates kind of when they are telling you about how you're benefiting them or any changes or like how you're making, I guess, their experience better in jail, if that makes sense? I may not be asking the correct question, but like how else is this like benefiting them?
So I've gotten some like thank you cards and things like that from inmates from several facilities saying like, thank you for bringing something beautiful to an ugly place kind of thing. I tried to choose my program of different types of music that different people might relate to. So it's not all classical. So I like add in some pop music and stuff like that so that they have something to connect to. So I've had several inmates approach me, like I played a Spanish piece and I had an inmate approach me after the concert saying like, hey, I'm actually from Spain and I really appreciate that because this is music from the country that I'm from and I can connect to it. I've had some inmates approach me and they are actually, I think one of them was a classical musician, so he could recognize some of the classical pieces I played with. So I tried to do that. That's kind of how I feel. Like I don't want to necessarily make them feel better, make them happy, but distract them in some way. So I try to choose music to do that. Yeah,
for us, it's interesting too, because we also do a program called JEPTHA, which is for the mental health unit of Sing Sing. So this is a newer program started by somebody who's an alum of Musicambia who was at Sing Sing, and then now he's some sort of counselor in Syracuse. Jason Narazzi is an incredible composer and also like a genuinely incredible dude. We do this program. I go and it's for, there's a guy named Chris. I forget his last name, but Chris is like a really cool guy. He works there. He's been working at Sing Sing for like 30 or 40 years. He does all the art classes for the mental health wing. So they do like painting. They have a garden over the summer, etc. And so we do a monthly music class. And that one is mostly just like me playing. Maybe my student Yoshi's there as a TA, so we'll play together. Some people like will want to sing some songs or have some poetry or spoken word they want to do. But it's less like we're building musical skills. We're not talking about theory. We're not talking about anything. Just kind of like go with the flow. And their reaction is often like, you took me out of prison for 2 hours, which is a feedback that we get a lot, I found. But then in the music program, like when we're going and doing more core music theory, music education on Saturdays and at Bedford Hills, etc., like the feedback that we get is people reframing the way that they hold themselves and the way that they identify with themselves. They call, now they're musicians and they can say proudly like, oh, I'm a songwriter, I'm a composer, I'm a cellist, I'm a guitarist, I'm a whatever. And it feels like it allows them to just have a different sense of identity and self-worth than whatever thing that they did that got them in there in the first place, which could just be like so heavy to work through. Some of our alums, like there's a guy named Kenyatta Hughes, who's an incredible, powerful songwriter. He's not just like performing in New York. He teaches with us sometimes. And him and some of our other alums, Robbie and Alfred Robb, and all these people that are now just have been out for a few years, like they're like, yeah, now I'm a musician. Like I'm not anything else. Like I am this thing now. So it's really cool to see the shift in identity and self-perception that having music education and giving them the opportunity to also like in adult life, 30 plus, like you're learning a new skill, you're learning a new instrument, and also realizing that they have the capacity to get better at a thing, even if they didn't start it as children, because often you're like, oh, well, I didn't learn violin when I was 6. So like now I can't play in the symphony. It's like, no, like it doesn't matter. You can still make music and call yourself that. So it's a really cool like identity reframing that we encounter a lot.
Wow.
It sounds like you're both opening up these gates that felt like they were being kept. Like there's this barrier to accessing a deeper level with music, but through either the performance part of it or the interactions after, or even the things that you choose that help them connect with it, it's giving them a chance to kind of let those barriers dissolve and at least in the very least think about what it means to be a musician.
Right. And then take these skills and apply it to whatever, that they're able to when they get out, like you say, when they graduate or become alums. I think it's really cool. It's really interesting to hear you both talk about how the inmates are learning from you. But like, what is something that you learned from the inmates and your experience in these positions? There's
a lot. I mean, every time I go there, I feel like I'm learning something. Whether it's, it's the classic, like when you teach somebody something and you're like, oh man, you're having trouble with whatever your scale is, like try this exercise. And you're like, that's a good idea. I should probably do that myself. But more so, it's also just like, I think it's just a lesson in like perseverance and confidence, honestly. Like when you see somebody get up on the mic and perform for the first time and like knowing how nerve-wracking it is to do that, in especially that space, like it just shows you the power of what music is. And also I think for me, the biggest lesson has always been community. Like ever since I started going, it's been a huge reminder and constant lesson in the power that music is all about community. It's all about the people you interact with and how you build those relationships and how they inform one another, good or bad. But I think in general, like the ideal is to build community. I mean, music, like from a tribal perspective, was to bring people together and do some sort of religious rite or some sort of dance or whatever. Like, it's not about who's the best. If you go to a concert, like that's kind of what's happening. You're having a lot of people in one space, all at its best, like losing their identity for an hour while being immersed in art. Or creating, if you have an orchestra, like everybody kind of at its best loses themselves in the music and can be part of this like bigger, serve a higher purpose, whatever that might be. So that's always been the lesson I come out of. It's just like the power of like perseverance and the power of community in music.
That's really deep. Confidence and stuff. And I think you gave some really cool explanations of that. Like it is a lot to even just get in front of people just to sing. I mean, just to talk, right? Like public speaking. Yeah. And then here they are singing in this type of condition.
Yeah, and they're singing original music. That's the other thing. It's like they're putting their thoughts and their feelings on paper and they're just like sending it, and it's, you get all sorts of things. Like one of our participants, Memnon, he's like a spoken word poet. And he just gave this whole thing about like what freedom means to him. It was like a 10-minute like spoken word odyssey. Like then someone's giving a song, like a love song about like not seeing his wife for like 20 years. So you're getting all sorts of really deep personal experiences that they're just like owning, presenting, and also executing at a high level, which is really incredible to see.
And being heard. Yeah. And the people that go to the like we get like general population of the concerts. And, an audience of like 30 to 50 people, maybe 100 people if we have like the bigger room.
and they're also supportive, and it's like they're dancing and they're moving and they're getting excited. It's not just like, it's a very welcoming environment, which is great to see, because it's really also beautiful to see like the camaraderie that they all have with each other.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. It's made me like, I've learned how to be a more confident and strong person just by the mere fact of going in and speaking about all this music and performing. It's also taught me to be kind of more open and receptive to talking to different kinds of people. And most importantly, it's made me kind of reshape how I see music, because a lot of times as classical musicians, we're taught like, this is a very difficult piece. It is very hard to play, but if you play it really well, then people will be really impressed. And that's kind of what I was talking about, losing the meaning of music, behind classical performance, where sometimes I would go in and I played like the Bach chaconne, and I thought it was going to be so impressive because it's such a long piece, and I worked months on it, and they liked it, but then I would play something like a arrangement of a pop song or like a folk song or a weird atonal piece, and they'd be like way more impressed by that. They like that more, connect it more, and it's completely not what I was expecting. And that's kind of made me rethink how I approach music. Maybe I approach it too much from a classical standpoint rather than from a community or like the meaning of music standpoint.
I'm curious, what do the inmates come up and talk to you about, or questions that they ask you?
So I always get asked if I know who Lindsey Sterling is all the time. She's like a pop violinist. Okay. Every time. They ask a lot of questions about the differences between violin and viola, because I primarily bring in a viola and I talk about, how it's different from violin and what it is. They ask me a lot of things about myself, actually, what I like about, like, why I do this. What kind of music I like to play, who my favorite composer is. And then they ask me a lot of, like, if I can play this rock song viola, and I say, yes, I can. It's not going to sound good, but so, yeah. So they do ask me questions about like the music that I play, but it kind of seems like they want to get to know me and what brought me there.
Sometimes, like, especially when we do like the mental health one, like I get a lot of like music industry questions. Like, oh, how does it work when you make a record or you on a tour or like whatever? Where do you play? What are you doing? I mean, in the music class, we get more general music questions, just like, what's a scale? What is this? Like somebody was drawing quarter notes on the board the other day and she was calling them Ds. She's like, I'm just going to put a D here because that's what they look like if you put them upright. And we were like, okay, cool. Like, sure. But yeah, it's mostly just like general, music questions. And I always try to frame it like, I've done a few songwriting courses, like just taking as a student, a few songwriting courses over the past few years, because there's a lot of really great resources for that. And it's always like, it's really impressive because the way that they've always kind of been, it's like, you could be a beginner or you could be an expert and still get something from it. Like they find a way to speak about music that isn't like completely gated off by theory. So what I try to like bring that into these classes where we have people of very different levels, people that are more advanced, people that are total beginners. Especially at the women's prison, like they're mostly beginners, like they mostly play piano. We have a few guitar students, a few violin students. But like the other day, we were giving them an exercise to come up with a random rhythm, like 2 bars of rhythm, and then add, notes from the key of C, and like try to like make a little melody or something like that. And one of my students, she's like, oh, I have this like little like rhythm, but it's all like, it was just a bunch of eighth notes. And she's like, it doesn't really have like a flow. I was like, oh, well, you can just take those notes and flip them around and play them backwards and just like treat it like a piece of clay and like turn them, play them slowly, play them quickly, like try to figure out how many different ways you can express the same idea. And like she lit up, she was like, oh my God, I never thought about it that way. So it's just kind of like, it's a lot of music questions, but we're trying to like, at least when I teach, I'm like trying to show them how open-ended things can be and how much out of something really simple, like whatever skill set they have, whether they're a beginner or an advanced musician, like they can make music with whatever they can, if it's a stick and a bottle, like you can make a beat on that, so just trying to like empower them to like whatever it is that they can use to make music.
I think it's really interesting to hear how both of your experiences are different, but they also align in the same way. Like Mariya, you are more so like independent, right? You're there to perform in front of the inmates. And Jan, you are more so in an instructor role to help like foster the music talents within the inmates. So I wanted to like, as we wrap up, I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to ask each other a question that maybe you're interested in each other's industries.
I guess I'll ask Jan what your most memorable interaction has been in terms of like you helping someone compose a piece or maybe learn how to play guitar. What was the most memorable and like life-changing, interesting relationship?
Honestly, one of the latest ones at our most recent concert, there's actually a viola. I think he plays viola. This guy named Shane, who turns out is the voice of an angel. I didn't know this until 2 weeks ago. And he sang an original piece of music that he wrote with one of our TAs, Elliot Cole. And it was just like so moving and so powerful. And I think it's just seeing that, like, you know, I thought of Shane as like, oh, he's the guy that plays viola in the string group. And then all of a sudden he comes out of here with like an incredible talent, amazing songwriting chops, but also just like phenomenal singing. And he's, you know, he's very shy. He's very like keeps to himself. So just to see him like stand in front of a crowd, solo voice and piano, you know, like not even hiding behind an instrument or like behind a band, and just delivering this like really powerful, really beautiful piece of music was, you know, it was one of those that you're just like chills the whole time. You're like, oh my God, how is this remotely a thing that I'm experiencing? And also, you know, also just because like the personality type, like you see this guy, you talk to him, he's really sweet, he's really nice, but he doesn't seem like the kind of person that like wants to take the mic, wants to take the forefront. And then seeing that confidence like come out anyway, pretty moving to see that. Yeah, in terms of performing, I'm curious, like, what are the things that resonate the most with people? Especially if you're doing like a mixed bag of repertoire, what is a common thread that people pick out from that?
I always choose a different program and I never know how they're going to react to it. Like there are times where it's the classical pieces that they really react to. Like I've done arrangements of Latin music that they really liked. I think the underlying pattern that I've noticed is when I play something like Mozart and something light and classical and has very symmetrical phrases, you know, the stuff that's usually very light and easy to listen to, that is the type of music that they connect to the least, surprisingly. It's the pieces that they either have some sort of nostalgia to it because it's a song that they know personally that they listen to, or if it's a song that makes them feel a certain way, whether it's really happy or really sad or some sort of emotion. And that actually surprised me, you know, because it's not the easy listening that is wanted.
All right. Well, thank you both for an amazing, one of a kind, for sure, episode. This is amazing. That was our interview with Jan and Mariya. What'd you think about it, boss?
Well, first, can I just acknowledge that before we hit record, you know, so basically when we record these segments, we go through the first and then we stop for like a good 30 seconds and then we're like, okay, and now we're going to do the outro.
Why are you giving them the sauce?
because this time both of us are getting over colds. And so like, we're both just like stretching and like wiping our faces like, oh, this is, I hope it's not as low energy as it feels in this room. Also too, like I'm super excited because we very rarely get to do this in the same space. So
very true.
So yeah, anyway, I thought this was a super special, one of a kind interview. I think that we should be nominated for a Peabody Award for our work with this. It's just such a insight into something that you don't even think about on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
You know, I always say kind of, we're the toy department. You know, we get to kind of play around and hang out with people and talk and you know, put fun stuff together. So to hear Mariya and Jan self-select into this, it's very commendable. If you think about it in terms of these are places where people are supposed to be able to rehabilitate, I think that this is an amazing opportunity for people to look inward, use music as a therapy tool, and see that there's other options out there in life.
Yeah. And just to even mention like the courage it takes to go into this type of environment, you know, like that's huge. And I definitely commend them both for doing that. But it also is just like a testament to the powers of music and the importance of music, no matter where you are and how beneficial and helpful it can be. It was definitely great hearing the stories that they were able to share with us today.
This is something that I'd love to follow up on, you know, in a year or two and see kind of where they're at.
Yeah, maybe we can do like a video on it. Like you go to the jails and then...
Never get, I mean, no.
His eyes just lit so big. Like, wait, me? You want me to go to the jails? No. I'm just saying. But it would be cool though.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it would be awesome. You know, and I'm always down for that type of filmmaking too.
I agree. I
don't
think
go anywhere.
Yeah, you'll be ready. One thing about you stay ready. But yeah, so we are closing out. This month's closing song is called Alien by alum Josias Iglesias, class of 2020. And I thought it would be really fitting because it is October. So like, yeah, let's listen about aliens.
Also, my wife is terrified by aliens. So Desiree, this one's for you.
Shout out to you, Des. Thank you all for listening and stay tuned for next month's episode.
When the world's too much, when there ain't no love, when I had enough, when I need some space in a quiet place far beyond the sun. But my head is in the dark, ain't no telling where you are, I'm just left here to search. You can send me to the stars, even better when I'm far from the edge of the earth. Calling aliens, hover over me, you can beam me up, you can set me free from all of this right now. Calling aliens, hover over me, you can beam me up, you can set me free from all of this right now. And when the world's too much, when it's heating up, when I'm feeling stuck, when I need some space, leave without a trace, you won't tell no one. And my head is where you are, 30 seconds off of Mars, but I'm left here to search. You can send me to the stars, even better when I'm far from the edge of the earth now. Calling aliens, hover over me, you can beam me up, you can set me free from all of this right now. Calling aliens, hover over me, you can beam me up, you can set me free from all of this right now. Got me feeling interstellar, I can stay forever. And when I'm stuck in orbit, out with this rocket ship somewhere better. Now I'm interstellar, mind is over matter. Euphoria, feel a supernova, now I'm stellar. Calling aliens.